the hardest $100,000 you ever make is the first. Not because that's a big number, but because for a long time it does to feel like anything is working. You save, you invest, you stay disciplined, and still it feels like you re-stuck. Like you re-pushing something heavy uphill and it barely moves, but then almost without warning, something changes. At 100, $0, the weight shifts. Money stops feeling like a struggle and starts behaving like a system. And once that happens, not just earning money anymore, you rebuilding momentum. Because $100,000 isn't just another number on the way to $1 million. It's a turning point, a line most people don't even realize they're reapproaching until they either cross it or give up right before it. At that point, your relationship with money starts to change, not slowly, not subtly, but in a way you can actually feel. Your thinking changes. You stop obsessing over every small expense and start paying attention to the decisions that actually move your life. Your decisions change. You no longer reacting to money. You redirecting it, choosing where it goes, what it builds, what it becomes. And your life trajectory changes. Because once you have real financial momentum, you stop living paycheck to paycheck, even if your income has to change that much. But here's the part nobody likes to talk about. Most people never reach this point. Not because they aren't smart enough, not because they don't work hard, but because of something far more subtle. They break the process right before it starts working. They get discouraged when progress feels slow. They lose consistency when results don't show up fast enough. They start over again and again without ever realizing they were closer than they thought. And that S, what makes this number so important, it's not just a financial milestone, it's a filter. The people who reach $100,000 aren't the ones who found a secret. They the ones who stayed long enough for the system to finally start working. And once it does, everything after that point starts to feel different. The journey to $100,000 doesn't fail because it's complicated. It fails because it feels pointless. In the beginning, everything you do looks small. You save your first $1,000 and nothing changes. Your life looks the same. Your stress feels the same. Your options are still limited, so you keep going. You push to $5,000, $10,000, maybe even $20,000. And yes, it progresses. But it doesn't feel like progress. You still working, the same job, still thinking about money, every day, still not free even at $50,000, which, by most standards, is a serious amount of money. It can feel underwhelming, like you've done everything right, but nothing in your life reflects it yet. And this is where most people hit something invisible, not a financial barrier, a psychological one. Because we rewired to expect feedback. You put in effort, you expect results. You go to the gym, you see changes. You work more hours, you earn more money. But with investing, the feedback is delayed. You redoing the right things, but the rewards are pushed into the future. Days turn into months. Months turn into years, and it starts to feel like you rerunning in place. This is the invisible wall, where effort and results feel completely disconnected. And the longer you stay here, the harder it becomes to keep going. Because delayed gratification sounds good in theory, but in real life, it's frustrating, it's just boring, and most of all, it's just easy to quit. So people slow down. They stop investing consistently. They dip into their savings. They tell themselves they'll get serious later, not realizing they were right at the point where things were about to change. Something strange happens when you cross $100,000. Not emotionally, not philosophically, mathematically. For the first time, your money starts to feel alive. Let me show you why. At $1,000, even a strong 10% return gives you $100 in a year. Nice. But it does change your life. At $10,000, that same return gives you $1,000. Better, but still not something you feel day to day. But at $100,000, that same 8%, 10% return suddenly becomes $8,000 to $10,000 per year. That S not abstract anymore. That S rent. That S a year of groceries. That S real tangible life impact. And here S the shift that almost no one talks about. Up until this point, your effort was doing 100% of the work. Every dollar came from your time, your energy, your job. But now, your money starts contributing. Not equally, not yet, but noticeably. And once you notice it, you can unsee it. Think about it like this. Before $100,000, building wealth feels like rowing a boat alone. Every stroke is you. Every inch forward is effort. If you stop rowing, you stop moving. But at $100,000, it's like the wind finally shows up. You still rowing, but now there's something else helping you move forward, and over time that wind gets stronger. This is where the entire game flips, because the goal is no longer just how much can I save. It becomes how do I make this $100 grow faster than I can earn? That S, a completely different question. That S, when you start caring about things like investment returns, asset allocation, time in the market, not because you're trying to be a finance expert, but because now it actually matters. And here's the part that really changes your behavior. When your portfolio grows by $8,000 in a year, you realize something uncomfortable. That's the equivalent of saving $667 every single month without doing anything. No budgeting, no side hustle, no sacrifice, just time and compounding. Now compare that to your early days. Remember how hard it was to save your first $500, your first $500, your first $1,000. That took discipline, restraint, constant effort. But now, your money is quietly doing the same thing in the background. And this creates a powerful psychological shift. You stop obsessing over small savings hacks, the $3 coffee, the $10 subscription, the tiny expenses that used to feel so important. Because you realize, even if you optimized every small decision perfectly, it wouldn't come close to what your investments can generate over time. So your focus shifts from micro to macro. From, should I spend $5 on this too? Am I putting enough money into assets that grow? This is the moment where people stop playing defense with money and start playing offense. They stop trying to not lose and start trying to actually build wealth. But here, that's the catch. And this is where most people get it wrong. $100.00 does time magically make you rich. It gives you leverage. And leverage only works if you use it correctly. Because if you stop here, if you slow down, if you start thinking, I've made it, that momentum disappears. The real power of $100 isn't T, the number itself. It's what happens next. Because once your money starts working for you, the question becomes, how fast can you scale it? And that S, where everything starts to accelerate. But the real transformation at $100,000 is T happening in your portfolio. It is happening in your head. Because somewhere along the way to that first $100.00, you stopped being someone who S trying to build wealth and became someone who actually does. That might sound subtle. It's not. Before this point, your identity is fragile. You re-saving, but you not sure it'll stick. You re-investing, but you second guess every move. You retrying, but part of you still feels like it could all fall apart. But after $100,000, there is proof. You didn't get lucky, you didn't stumble into it. You built it, and that changes how you see yourself. You are no longer asking, can I become wealthy? You re-asking, how far can I take this? And that identity shift quietly upgrades every decision you make because the question changes. Before, every purchase ran through one filter. Can I afford this? Which is really just another way of asking, will this hurt me right now? But after $100,000, that question evolves into something far more powerful. Is this worth it? Not just financially, but in terms of your time, your priorities, your future. Because once you built something real, you start protecting it, not out of fear, but out of clarity. You realize that money isn't just for spending it, it's for buying freedom, options, time control over your life. And suddenly every dollar has a job. That doesn't mean you stop spending. It means you start spending intentionally. You will still pay for things you love, but the random, impulsive decisions, they start to fade because they don't pass the new test. And internally, something even deeper shifts. The anxiety that used to sit in the background of your life starts to disappear. You stop checking your bank account with tension. You stop feeling that low-level stress every time an unexpected expense shows up because you know you can handle it. That S control, and control creates confidence. You walk into work differently. You negotiate differently. You think differently because you no longer operating from survival. You operating from stability. And here's the interesting part. Nothing about your external life may have dramatically changed. Same job, same city, same routine, but internally, everything feels different because you no longer reacting to money. You redirecting it, and that confidence compounds, just like your investments do. It shows up in your career, in your relationships, in the risks you willing to take. You stop playing small. Not because you suddenly became fearless, but because you finally have a foundation strong enough to stand on. And once you experience that shift, there's no going back, because now you know what it feels like to be in control. So if $100,000 changes everything, why do most people never get there? It's not because they bad at math. It's not because they don't to earn enough, and it's definitely not because they don't want it. It is because of something far more subtle, behavior there is. A pattern that quietly sabotages almost everyone. And once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere. It goes like this. You make progress, you feel good, you relax just a little, and then you reset back to where you started. Progress, reset, repeat, over and over again. Let's break down what that actually looks like. First trap. Lifestyle inflation. You get a raise. Finally, all those late nights, all that effort, it pays off. And for a moment you think, this is it. Now I can really start building wealth. But then your life upgrades with your income. A slightly nicer apartment. A better car. More dinners out. More you deserve it. Moments, nothing extreme. Just a little more everywhere. And suddenly, that raise? Gone. Not because you wasted it, but because you absorbed it into your lifestyle. Second trap. Reward spending. This one is even sneakier because it feels justified. You hit $20,000, maybe $30,000, maybe even $50,000, and you think, I've been so disciplined, you've earned this. So you take the trip, buy the upgrade, make the purchase. You've been delaying again, nothing crazy. But here's the problem. You didn't just spend money, you broke momentum. And momentum is everything in the early stages. Because before $100,000, your progress is fragile. It's not self-sustaining yet. One big step backward can erase months or years of effort. Third trap, panic. This is the one that hits people who actually start investing seriously. The market drops, 10%, 20%, sometimes more. And suddenly, all that progress feels like it's disappearing. So what do most people do? They sell. They protect what they have left. They move to cash. Wait for things to feel safe again. But here's the brutal irony. They lock in the loss and miss the recovery. So instead of compounding forward, they reset again. And this is why so many people feel stuck. Not because they never make progress, but because they keep undoing it. They climb halfway up the mountain, then slide back down, climb again, slide again. From the outside, it looks like they re-trying, and they are, but they re-stuck in a loop. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to hear. Building $100,000 is not primarily a math problem. Yes, the numbers matter. Yes, income matters. Yes, investing matters. But none of that works if your behavior keeps resetting your progress, because the formula is simple. Earn, save, invest, repeat. But simple doesn't mean easy. What actually separates the people who reach 100K from those who don't is intelligence. It's consistency, the ability to hold the line when life gets tempting, stay invested when things get scary, delay gratification when it feels uncomfortable, over and over again for years. That's the real barrier. Not knowledge, not access, not opportunity, discipline. And once you understand that, you stop looking for shortcuts. Because you realize there aren't any, there only one way through. And most people quit before they get there. Here's where things start to feel unfair, in a good way. Because the hardest part of building wealth is not making money. It's reaching that first $100,000. After that, the game changes, and it changes fast. The first $100,000 feels like dragging a weight uphill. Every dollar is effort. Every step takes time. Every bit of progress feels slow. But the second $100,000, it doesn't take the same amount of time. It takes less, sometimes a lot less. And the third, even faster. This is what I call the acceleration effect. And once it kicks in, it's almost shocking how quickly things start to move. Let us break down why this happens. First, compounding finally becomes visible. At 100 pints and dollar, your money isn't just sitting there anymore. It is working. An 8% return now gives you $8,000 a year. That's not pocket change. That's meaningful progress. But here's the part most people underestimate. That $8,000 is doing the same job as your savings. If you reinvesting $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year from your effort. Add the $8,000 from your investments. And suddenly you moving forward by $20,000 a year without working twice as hard. That's the moment when effort and momentum start overlapping. And once that happens, speed increases. Second, your income usually grows. The person who reaches $100,000 is not the same person who started at zero. You've gained skills, confidence, experience. You've likely negotiated raises, switched jobs, increased your earning power. So now you not just investing consistently, you reinvesting more, which means your contributions are bigger. At the exact same time, your investments are growing. Effort didn't just stay the same. It leveled up. Third, your decisions get sharper. This one is subtle but powerful. When you had nothing, every decision felt emotional. Should I invest? Should I wait? What if I lose money? But now, you've seen how the game works. You understand markets go up and down. Time matters more than timing. Consistency beats perfection. So you stop hesitating. You stop overthinking. You just execute. And that removes friction. No more stopping and starting. No more second-guessing every move. Just steady forward motion. And when you combine all three of these forces, compounding, higher income, better decisions, something powerful happens. Momentum replaces effort. You still contributing, you still showing up, but it no longer feels like you pushing a boulder uphill. Now, it feels like the boulder is rolling, and you just guiding it. That S why people who reach 100 pints in dollar often hit 200. $0 without even realizing it. Because the system is finally working with them, not against them. And once you feel that acceleration, you start thinking differently again. Because now the question is T, can I build wealth? It becomes how big can this get if I don't T mess it up? And that question is where things start to get really interesting. Let S clear something up. $100,000 won't make you rich. You're not flying private. You're not retiring early. You're not suddenly living some luxury lifestyle. But what it gives you is something far more powerful. Options, flexibility, peace of mind. Because at $100,000, money stops being something that controls your life and starts becoming something that supports it. Think about what that actually looks like. You wake up on a Monday morning, and for the first time, the thought crosses your mind. I don't have to be here. Not in a reckless way, not in a quit dramatically and burn everything down way, but in a quiet, powerful way. You realize if this job stops making sense, you can leave. That changes everything, because when you have no savings, work isn't a choice, it's survival. You tolerate things you shouldn't tolerate. Bad managers, toxic environments, work that drains you. Not because you want to, but because you can afford not to. But with $100,000, you have breathing room. You can walk away. You can take a break. You can search for something better without panic driving every decision. That S, not luxury. That S, freedom. And it doesn't stop at your job. It shows up in the risks you're willing to take before $100,000. Every risk feels dangerous. Start a business, too risky. Switch careers, too unstable. Go back to school, too expensive. Because failure is to just failure. It's financial damage. But after $100,000, risk starts to look different. Now it's what is the downside and can I handle it? And most of the time the answer is yes. So you start doing things you would have never considered before. You take that opportunity, you test that idea, you invest in yourself. Not blindly, not recklessly, but strategically, because you finally have a safety net strong enough to support you. And maybe the biggest shift of all is how you think about time. When you're reliving paycheck to paycheck. Everything is short term. Next bill, next paycheck, next problem. The future feels distant, almost irrelevant. But at $100,000, your timeline expands. You start thinking in years, not weeks. You make decisions differently. That course isn't $2,000 anymore. It's an investment in your future income. That career move is risky. It's a long-term upgrade. That extra money you invest isn't just saving. It's planting something that will grow. And this shift is quiet, but it's life-changing. Because once you start thinking long-term, you stop reacting to life and start designing it. You become intentional with your time, with your money, with your decisions, and the stress. It does to disappear completely, but it softens. Unexpected expenses don't feel like emergencies. They feel like inconveniences, that constant background anxiety. The one you didn't even realize was always there starts to fade. Because, you can handle what life throws at you. And that feeling, it's hard to describe until you experience it. It's not excitement. It's not hype. It's calm. And in a world where most people are constantly stressed about money, that calm is incredibly rare. $100,000 does to buy you luxury, but it buys you something better. Control. And once you have that, you start to realize this was never just about the money. So let S bring this full circle. $100,000. is not the finish line. It's not the moment you made it. It's not the number where everything suddenly becomes easy. It's the point where the rules change. Before $100 dollar, everything feels heavy. Progress is slow, effort feels constant, doubt shows up often. You re-pushing, climbing, trying to prove to yourself that this even works. But after $100,000, you not just working harder, you working differently. Because now, your money is contributing. Your decisions are sharper. Your mindset is stronger. The system finally starts to move with you instead of against you. And that's why this number matters. Not because of what it buys you, but because of what it unlocks. It unlocks confidence. It unlocks clarity. It unlocks the ability to think beyond survival. And once you cross that line, you stop asking, can I build wealth? You start asking, what kind of life do I actually want to build? Because at the end of the day, this was never really about money. Money is just the tool. What you were really chasing is control. Control over your time. Control over your decisions. Control over your future. And $100,000 is the moment you finally start to get it. Not all at once, not perfectly, but enough to feel the shift. Enough to know you on the other side of something. So if you still on the way there, keep going. Because the hardest part isn't the journey ahead of you. It's the part you in right now. And if you've already crossed it, then you know. Everything feels different. Because money stops being something you chase and starts becoming something you direct. And that's the real milestone. Money stops controlling you at $100,000.